This is a body that became stone. This is how the planet records its dead. A fossil is not a bone. A fossil is what's left when a bone has been gone for 10 million years, and the rock around it has taken its place, atom by atom. The shape stays, the structure stays, the animal does not. What you're holding when you hold a fossil is geology wearing the costume of biology. Paleontologists call the science of how this happens taphonomy, the study of how organisms become fossils, and why almost none of them do. And the fact that any of it survives at all is one of the strangest accidents in the history of life on Earth. This is What is a Fossil? The ultimate beginner's guide. Welcome to Stoneform. Let's start with the technical answer. A fossil is the preserved remains, the impressions, or the trace evidence of an organism from a past geological age. Paleontologists draw the line at about 10,000 years. Anything older than that, preserved in rock or sediment, gets called a fossil. Anything younger gets called a subfossil, partially fossilized, still containing organic material, still useful, but not yet in deep time. That 10,000 year mark isn't arbitrary. It's the end of the last ice age. It's the boundary between the Pleistocene and the Holocene, the moment the glaciers retreated and the modern world began. Everything before that line belongs to a different planet. The fossils we find from that older world aren't just old bones. They're the only direct evidence we have that an entire history happened before us. Geologists actually use certain fossils as index fossils, marker species so distinctive and so widespread that their presence in a rock layer tells you exactly how old that layer is. They're timestamps written in bone. A woolly mammoth tusk from 12,000 years ago, fossil. A medieval skeleton, not a fossil. A petrified tree from the Triassic, fossil. A pet horse buried last century, not a fossil. The age is the gate. The preservation is the proof. The line between the two worlds is a piece of geological paperwork 10,000 years deep. Here's the part most people miss. Becoming a fossil is one of the rarest things that can happen to a living thing. Less than 1% of all species that have ever existed on Earth have been found as fossils. Some estimates put it lower than that. Paleontologists sometimes quote the figure 1 in a million, meaning the odds of any individual creature ever becoming a fossil are roughly that bad. Think about that for a second. Every animal you've ever seen, every bird, every fish, every insect, every mouse in the wall. The statistical truth is that none of them will leave a trace. They'll die, they'll rot, they'll get eaten, and the atoms that made them will recycle into other lives. The world will forget them completely. That's what death looks like by default. Fossilization is the freak exception. In the last 100 years alone, somewhere close to 500 vertebrate species have gone extinct because of human activity. A study published in the journal Science looked at how many of those would actually leave fossils for some future paleontologist to find. The answer was very few. The rarest and most endangered species, the ones we mourn the most, are the ones least likely to be preserved at all. The fossil record is full of common things. The strange and the precious mostly vanish. So when you pick up a fossil at a shop or hold one in your hand at a museum, you're not just looking at something old. You're looking at a statistical miracle. You're looking at a creature that beat odds so steep that almost nothing else from its world made it across. There are, broadly, 5 ways a body can become stone. Each one needs a different kind of luck, and each one is part of the answer to what is a fossil, the ultimate beginner's guide. The first and most common is called permineralization. After death, the soft parts rot away fast. Within weeks, sometimes days. What's left is the hard stuff. Bones, shells, teeth, woody plant material. If that hard stuff gets buried quickly enough by sediment, before scavengers and weather can finish it off, groundwater starts seeping through it. Bone is porous. Wood is porous. The minerals dissolved in that groundwater, usually silica, sometimes calcium carbonate, occasionally pyrite, precipitate out of the water and fill the empty spaces inside the original tissue. Slowly, over thousands of years, the bone hardens into something halfway between bone and rock. The original structure is still there, Microscopic details, sometimes down to the level of individual cells, can still be visible. That's permineralization. Most of the dinosaur bones at Dinosaur National Monument in Utah preserved this way, infiltrated mostly by silica from groundwater that ran through them long after the dinosaurs were gone. The second path is called replacement, and it goes one step further. Instead of just filling the pores, the minerals slowly dissolve the original organic material and take its place, molecule by molecule. The Greek word for stone is petros. That's where we get the word petrification. The original body is gone. What remains is a perfect copy of it, made entirely of mineral. The most famous example is the petrified forest in Arizona, where entire fallen trees from the late Triassic, around 220 million years old, have been replaced by silica colored every shade of red, purple, and gold. The wood is no longer wood. It's quartz, wearing the shape of a tree. The third path is carbonization. This one is for delicate things. When a leaf or a fish or an insect gets buried in low oxygen sediment, the weight of everything piling on top of it squeezes it flat. Heat and pressure drive off the water and the volatile gases until only carbon is left. The result is a thin black film on the surface of the rock. Two-dimensional, ghostly, but often preserving incredible detail. The veins of a leaf, the wing of a beetle, the scales of a fish. The Messel pit in Germany is a 50-million-year-old gold mine for carbonized fossils. We have entire bats from there, with the outlines of their last meals still visible inside their stomachs. The fourth path is the mold and cast pair. A shell or a bone gets buried in sediment. The sediment hardens around it. Then, groundwater dissolves the original material and washes it away, leaving a hollow space the exact shape of the thing that used to be there. That's a mold. If new minerals later seep in and fill that hollow, you get a cast, a sculpture of the original organism made of completely different material. Most of the ammonites you've ever seen in fossil shops are molds and casts. The shell is gone. The shape it left behind is what you're looking at. The fifth path is the rarest of all. It's called simply preservation. The body itself is the fossil. No mineral replacement, no carbonization, nothing. The original tissue is still there. This is the woolly mammoth pulled out of Siberian permafrost with skin and hair still attached. This is the insect trapped in amber, suspended in tree resin for 40 million years. This is the saber-toothed cat dragged out of the La Brea tar pits in Los Angeles, still soaked in the asphalt that killed it. These fossils are vanishingly rare. They're the reason we know what color some prehistoric animals were, and what they had for their last meal. Now, everything we've talked about so far has been the body, the corpse, the remains. But the fossil record contains another whole category, just as important and often more interesting: trace fossils. A trace fossil isn't the organism. It's something the organism did. A footprint pressed into soft mud that hardened into rock. A burrow tunneled by a worm. A bite mark left on a bone. A nest. A pile of dinosaur droppings. Yes, those are fossils too, and they have a name: coprolites, which turns out to be one of the most useful words in paleontology because they're everywhere in the rock record, and they preserve the diet of animals whose bodies are long gone. The 19th century fossil hunter Mary Anning, who discovered ichthyosaur and plesiosaur skeletons along the English coast, was actually among the first to correctly identify what coprolites were. She found them stuffed inside the body cavities of the ichthyosaurs she excavated, and figured out they were fossilized feces before the scientific establishment was willing to believe her. Trace fossils tell us what the body did when it was alive. We have dinosaur trackways, where you can watch the animal speeding up, turning, hunting. We have burrows from organisms whose bodies never fossilized at all. We know they existed only because of the holes they left behind. Some of the oldest evidence for complex life on Earth comes not from bones, but from worm-like traces in rock more than 500 million years old. Body fossils tell you what the animal was. Trace fossils tell you what the animal did. Together, they're the evidence locker, the geological record of how life behaved. And once in a great while, the planet hands us something extra. There are sites on Earth, Paleontologists call them Lagerstätten, German for storage place, where conditions were so perfect that soft tissues, skin, even feathers, got preserved alongside the bones. The Burgess Shale in British Columbia, dating to the Cambrian period around 508 million years ago. Solmhofen limestone in Germany, Messel pit again. These are the mother lodes. They're the reason we know that some dinosaurs had feathers, and that some of the strangest animals that ever lived had bodies you could not have predicted from their bones alone. Most of the fossil record is fragmentary. The Lagerstätten are where it goes full color.
Now we have to talk about how far back this record goes, because the answer is genuinely difficult to hold in your head.
The oldest direct fossils on Earth are called stromatolites. They look, at first glance, like layered domes of rock, like someone built a stack of pancakes and turned it to stone. But they're not just rock. They're the fossilized remains of bacterial mats, colonies of cyanobacteria that built themselves up, layer by sticky layer, in the shallow seas of the Archean eon. The best preserved examples sit in the Dresser Formation in the Pilbara region of Western Australia. They are 3.48 billion years old. 3.48 billion. The Earth itself is only about 4.5 billion years old. These fossils are more than 50 times older than the last Tyrannosaurus rex. There may be older ones in Greenland, 3.7 billion years, but those are disputed because at that age, the rock has been so deformed that it's hard to tell what's biological and what's geological. The Pilbara stromatolites are the ones almost everyone agrees on. What's astonishing about them isn't just the age, it's what they did. The cyanobacteria that built those stromatolites produced oxygen as a waste product. They did this for over 1 billion years, slowly pumping oxygen into the atmosphere of a planet that had almost none. Eventually, the oxygen built up enough to turn the sky blue, oxidize the iron in the oceans, and make complex life possible. Every breath you take is a payment to those bacteria. They're the reason there's anything else in the fossil record at all.
So, what is a fossil? A fossil is a body that became stone or a trace that became rock, preserved in deep time. It's a statistical miracle, a single survivor from a vanished world, picked almost at random by geology to make it across. It's evidence in a case that started before there was anything to call evidence. It's how the planet remembers. Taphonomy is the science of that remembering, the rules that decide what gets kept and what disappears forever. The fossil record is the longest continuous document we have, written in a language we're still learning to read. Every fossil hunter in the field, every scientist in a lab, every kid splitting a piece of shale on a beach is a translator, and every fossil they find is one more sentence in a 4 billion year old book about life. That's What is a Fossil, the ultimate beginner's guide. It's where everything else on this channel starts.